Yeah. So good afternoon. My name is Ria. Today I am speaking with Mr. Anubhav Anand about his science fantasy novel, Grandest Revelation, The Ascension. Thank you for joining us, Anubhav sir. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
So start casually, I wanted to ask that when did you first realize that you wanted to be a storyteller? And I mean, what inspired you to write this book?
I have been, writing. I started with writing the poems in school time during my school, but I never realized at that time that I would be writing any large stories or novella or novels kind of a thing because writing small stories, 1 or 2 pages, I did that at that time. But when you're envisaging something on that large level, so that needs all the materials as well. So I guess the concept came, in 2014 when I was, traveling in a train and I in a lower berth and I saw the stars. So at that time, something came up that kind of a just a conflict in a book, a plot kind of a thing. But I dumped it because I thought that it's not enough to go on. So, I mean, I thought that it was a very stupid idea, like because we have seen so many great storytellers and, the imagination that they portray out of their books. So I thought that it's not good enough to go on with, this story. So I dumped it at that time. And then later on, I gained confidence, I guess, in due time. And when in 2019, I started working on that plot and creating the materials out of it that a story can actually come out of it. And I mean, it was good because I mean, it's not only went on for one book. I have created a
Yeah.
second book also out of it. So yeah, so there was something from that, watching stars in that on that train
Nice.
and then gaining confidence in time.
Great. So your book creates a vast celestial universe and introduces demistars. And demistar, you explain that are the beings that is born from stars and humans. So it's really interesting. So what inspired this concept to come up and what do you feel that stars and humans, these amalgamations and everything? Can you just highlight to our readers?
I mean, when you because when you look in the sky, so you will have that there is a huge universe out there, and we have the science also to prove that that is a separate thing,
Yeah.
and that's why this is a fiction. It's based out of that science out there, but it's all about the imagination. That when you go out there, you have to have all the stars out there in form of, and when you and I just wanted to create a story for them because they are I just like stars a lot. So when I thought that if they can turn into a human form, then they can do a lot of things like human does, and they can mate, and then if and it's not about the demi stars. It's also that when stars mate among themselves, then they create fresh stars. So because we know that stars also birth out every day and they die out there as well. So it's about them stars as well. It's about and when they come to any planet, they mate and then they get and then the demi stars or the creatures come out of them. So they will have their own story. They will have their own power. And the tragic thing about Demistars is being a demistar because you are different. You are not a person, you are not a human. You have something else in yourself, and that difference, is always a kind of a curse for you. So that creates a lot of plot in the story because we have a lot of uh, demi-stars in the book and they have their own personal stories. So that's so I mean that with that I started going on and the material comes out. So yeah.
Yeah. So, your novel blends science, Your novel blends science from to fiction, mythology, fantasy, and astronomy. So, what research or sources influence the way you combine these elements? Because there are, I mean, they are connected somehow, but still coming up, a one piece after from all of the sources. So, what are the research or sources that influenced you?
When I started researching about it, so we it was at initially, I started with an initial research, where you read a lot, you read everything
Hmm.
about everything, and you just get the idea. Even I have read some chapters of Stephen Hawking as well to get some ideas that I can include in this book. So the initial researching is that you read a lot, everything that you get in the internet
Hmm.
about it, and then you deep dive into it, that what you want to have, and include in this book. So researching of about the astronomy and universe was something, and then researching about history as well, because when we talk about the
Yeah.
demi-stars, so demi-stars also have born out, I mean, some of them has born in 5th century, 10th century. So when I'm talking about their storyline, so I have to go back to the history, the timelines, and what was happening at that time in that region, actually. Uh, getting out the facts as much as I can, and then creating a fiction out of it. So there is some history also involved in this, myths also involved, obviously, because we are talking about
Yeah.
ancient stars and ancient wars as well. So yes, I mean, for the first book, I had to research a lot. For the second book, the plus point was that I already had a lot of materials in hand.
Mhm.
So for the second book, I mean, my 50-60% research, which was already
Yeah,
done
you
for the
got a
first book.
base kind of.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was utilized in the second book as well, apart from the particular things that I, wrote in the second book, which took me another sort of research in the across. So that was there. So research is obviously there when you're, writing a fiction book, and you want it to be, true as much as it should be. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about certain characters, like one you talked about, Girisha Hathaway, Ethan Brown. So they take very different parts in the story. So which character did you find most challenging to write and why? I mean, any character that you can say other than these two as well. I mean, your choice.
No, I agree. I mean, Lisa Hathaway and both Ethan Brown, I mean, they have, they had a very different and different conflict
Hmm.
in the book, and that resonates, with their persona, because they have their own powers, they have their own traits, and they have their own background. So writing Lisa Hathaway was a challenging one, and that is because her character puts out a lot, and it was not with an instinct. I never thought that I will give a lot to her. It's just that when I started developing the book, and when I was working on the characters, then it happened like Lisa Hathaway got a lot limelight than other characters, because her story and the background had a lot. She was tortured. I mean, there is a lot of things going on in that in background, and I gave it a lot to them, because in a limit, that it should not look like that I am, torturing my characters a lot. So it's just that, I am making them strong, and with that storyline, I wanted them to have it as real as good. So I had to be emotional as well when I'm writing Lisa Hathaway. I had to be fun when I am writing Ethan Brown,
Beautiful.
along in the way, so that, so that it can resonate with their personality as well, and the
Hmm.
traits that they're having, because they have I mean, they have a lot of things together. After all, if I mean, the readers who have gone through my book, they are half siblings, so some things are connecting as well with them. So yeah.
Different emotions you must be having writing different characters. I can
Mhm.
easily get
Yeah.
it. So your books explain about Arthur Can Davis' death as well. So
Mhm.
what does his legacy represent for Demistars and the narrative's emotional core as well?
Arthur Ken Davis, I mean, according to the book, he is the greatest and most powerful Demistar across the world. So, the story starts with him. My first book started with him, and his death also marked a lot important. His death was even more critical to the story than the survivability. So, he was a very strong anchor to the group because he brought all the Demistars together with a common agenda that they had. And the second book also has him because, in a very lucid form, because he wanted to keep the team going. Because when a team is a leaderless, sometimes you will find a leader, sometimes you won't. So at that time, you have to have someone, in even if they are in shadows, you have to have them, so that you can keep going. So Arthur can, he's that for the team. He's that for the Demi Stars. So that's why, he will be there, and his legacy is important even after, he has, uh, even after the death,
Got it.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So, you give characters a very painful memory and a personal struggle. I mean, this conversation, till what we have done, I can literally make a crisp out of it. I mean, why did you choose to pair the vulnerability with extraordinary ability? I mean, why? What's the reason behind?
See, when you talk about the Demi stars, obviously they are anyway unique and they are different because they have the
Hmm.
powers. So I did not want them to have it like that they have the powers, so they are, a different in a way. I wanted them to have something different so that their also characters will evolve in time. Because when even in our own life, when you have any personal struggle, any painful memories, so I mean, if you step on and you overcome it, so you become strong. Okay, so on that note, also I wanted them to have those personal struggles and any kind of, it's not about painful memories, it's about a tragedy, a conflict that they can have, so that based on that, they can evolve and they can be more stronger, not because they are
Stronger.
demi-stars. I want them to be emotionally strong rather than uh, having a power. So strength is a different thing, but emotional strength is a main thing which only comes when you have any personal struggle and that kind of memories, because you have went over it, you have stepped up, and you have survived that kind of thing. So that will allow them to be more. So that's why I said that I know that I have tortured them, but it's only because it had to be in that
It
story,
had to.
in part of that story.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got your point. So Ras Alhague is a terrifying antagonist with a complex emotion. He's more than just a villain, according to your novel. So what did you, how do you craft his personality and motivations?
I mean, to be honest, it was really difficult because when you
Yeah,
look out all the greatest villains out there, you see that they have their own story because of that. Because you don't become villain on day one. Okay, you have to have something. And Ras Al Hug's character was that he was villain on day one. So when I was trying to build his character, I had to work a lot, like because he was an evil star who wants to control the universe. So that mindset only gives him that he's a villain. But at the same time, I wanted some conflict also to be part of him, that why he did that. So in the first book, that was not there. Okay, in the first book, because that was the foundation book, that I was introducing all the characters, I was introducing the major conflict in the book, and I did not talk about the background of all the characters. But in the Ascension, Ras Alhag has some, the conflict, why he became what he was now, and why he is one of the most powerful stars in the universe, and why everyone is afraid of him. what he wants, what he needs, what his desires. So everything I have talked about him. So there is some limelight on him, about it. So
Yeah.
because driving a villain to what he does is has to be there when you are talking about such a vast story and you want it to be about some good and evil concept. So yeah, so Ras Alhague was a difficult for me to navigate, but it happened in
Hmm.
time.
Okay. So my next question is regarding the theme of your novel. I mean, the key theme is survival. So is there a personal message about survival you hope that readers would take away?
When you I yeah I totally, I mean, when you talk about the survival, so it's their part. I mean, it's I mean, in our part every day, because when you step out from your home and when you come back, so you have survived that day to for the next day. So survival is all about taking a very little things, because even for, I mean, I can anchor it back to the emotional connect which I was talking about. So when you have survived any painful memories or personal struggle. So so you have become stronger. You have survived that part of it. You did not succumb to it. So that's I wanted to talk about in this book as well, because when I have given them a lot, to embrace. So they have when they have embraced a lot, so they have survived that part of it, and that's why the story of the second book could I can I could have designed that because they survived
Exactly.
it. If they could not have, then the story would have ended in the first book itself. So survival is there, hatred is there, love is also there in the book. So there are some themes that I have talked about it in the in the as I have wrote it.
So my next question is related to the balance that you have provided in the book. So the book balances mysteries about identity, family, connections, and an ancient prophecy with action sequences. So how did you balance these mysteries while keeping the pace thrilling?
Yeah, it was this was challenging when I was writing in the second book. I mean, when I was writing the first book, it was not a challenge because it was fresh out of the mind, and I had a plan. And but when I was writing in the second book, and I had to balance all the things again, and also keeping check the loopholes, that could occur based out of the story from the first book. So I would just like to say from this is that when we have a story or narration on such a vast level, and with a lot of image stars, lot of characters there. So it cannot have only one conflict in the book that can keep them going. It will have, multiple conflicts in the book that will go parallelly. So, the stories moves on with the Demistar, the stories moves on with the prophecies, or, the family lessons. Family lessons are nothing but the relations between the stars and the demi-stars, because they have been abandoned, so there is conflict on that part. So based on that, I have designed the story so that everything can go parallel, and keeping in check that when I'm writing the chapters, so I'm keeping the story forward in all those dynamics, rather than just uh, making one conflict more important than other. That's not the case. I have kept them all together, and and also making them converge, so the storyline will converge in the end. That's how it is. So yeah, so it was challenging in the second to keep it going, but in the first it was comparatively easy. But it's there,
I'm
you have
sure it
the
is
plan.
worth it. The
Yeah.
challenges are worth it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the secondary characters, and or I would say the supporting characters in your novel, because it is important. So the
Yeah.
supporting character Melissa Irwin, which plays a very important role in developing protagonist arcs. So how did you
Right.
decide which supporting character get a more narrative space?
It's because supporting characters are always there with the primary characters and assisting them in the storyline. So it's all about that when I am writing about the primary characters, so which supporting characters are more important in the story. So sometimes they overlap as well. Sometimes, the supporting characters also get more limelight because of their, the storyline as well. So Melissa Edwin, as you talked about, she is one of the, major character also in the second book. She was not in the first. So in this, so that's because her storyline is supporting one of the primary characters in the book. So I have, tried out that the supporting characters will get all the major storyline because that will make it more realistic. I don't want them to come in abruptly and move out of the space or the screen because it's to show that it's just they have come for a, a very simple purpose. I want them to have also their own major storyline so that it can also give some impact to the story that I'm creating. So yeah, so based on that I have created that.
So, what can readers expect from the next part of the Grandest Revelation series?
Well, if there would be, then of course,
Hmm.
the story would dig deeper, okay?
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of thing. I mean, the grandest revelation, there is a lot of things that has to be revealed. So it will get deeper. It will, some characters who's are still have some unfinished business, so they will move on. There is also some other aspects in the universe that I wanted to talk about because I am seeing the universe in my own perception. So when I'm seeing in my own perception, then I have a lot of things to talk about the things out there. It has a lot of things to include in the storyline. So I am also going. I mean, driving the story to that part as well. So Grand Revelation is not only about the stars and the universe. It's also about the the story that bring out how a universe can converge to a very small part that when some characters from a planet can go out there and when it's connected entirely so there is a lot of things that can go on. So if there will be, so I can work on it, I can talk about it.
Okay. So at last, I just want to end this conversation. Thank you, Anubhav. And I would say that I can surely say by this conversation so far that the book combines imagination with emotional depth. And surely it will leave readers with both excitement and reflection for life. So, a must read book. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much again.